Climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperature and weather patterns on Earth, primarily caused by human activities, particularly the emission of greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide, into the atmosphere. These emissions come from burning fossil fuels, deforestation, industrial processes, and other human activities. The impact of climate change on the planet is widespread and far-reaching, affecting various aspects of the Earth's systems and ecosystems. Here are some key impacts. Rising temperatures. Global temperatures have been steadily increasing due to climate change. This leads to more frequent and intense heat waves, especially in urban areas, posing risks to human health and exacerbating the risk of wildfires. Melting ice caps and rising sea levels. As temperatures rise, glaciers and ice caps melt, contributing to rising sea levels. This threatens coastal communities, increases the risk of coastal erosion, and leads to the loss of valuable ecosystems like coral reefs and coastal wetlands. Extreme weather events. Climate change is associated with an increase in extreme weather events such as hurricanes, cyclones, droughts, and floods. These events can cause significant damage to infrastructure, agriculture, and human settlements, resulting in loss of life and economic impacts. Changes in precipitation patterns. Climate change affects rainfall patterns, leading to more intense rainstorms or longer drought periods in different regions. This can disrupt agricultural production, water availability, and ecosystems reliant on specific precipitation patterns. Ecosystem disruption. Climate change poses a significant threat to biodiversity and ecosystems. Species are facing habitat loss, migration challenges, and an increased risk of extinction due to changing temperatures and disrupted ecosystems. Ocean acidification. Increased levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere are absorbed by the oceans, leading to ocean acidification. This can harm marine life, particularly organisms that build shells or skeletons from calcium carbonate, such as corals, shellfish, and some plankton species. Health impacts. Climate change impacts human health in various ways. It can lead to increased heat-related illnesses, the spread of infectious diseases, poor air quality, and food and waterborne illnesses due to changing climate conditions. Socioeconomic effects. Climate change has economic implications, including impacts on agriculture, tourism, infrastructure, and human settlements. Disruptions to these sectors can lead to job losses, displacement, and increased poverty and inequality. Loss of natural resources. Climate change affects the availability and quality of natural resources. Water scarcity can intensify in certain regions, affecting agriculture, drinking water supplies, and sanitation. Changes in temperature and precipitation can also impact forests, reducing timber resources and disrupting ecosystems that provide essential services, such as water filtration and carbon sequestration. Threats to coastal areas. Rising sea levels and increased storm surges pose significant threats to coastal areas. Low-lying regions, including islands and densely populated coastal cities, are particularly vulnerable to flooding and saltwater intrusion. These areas face risks of infrastructure damage, displacement of populations, and loss of valuable coastal habitats. Impact on agriculture and food production. Climate change affects agricultural productivity and food security. Changes in temperature, rainfall patterns, and the prevalence of pests and diseases can disrupt crop yields and livestock production. This can lead to food price increases, reduced access to nutritious food, and heightened vulnerability in regions heavily dependent on agriculture. Disruption of water systems. Climate change impacts water resources and hydrological cycles. Changes in precipitation patterns can alter the availability and distribution of water resources, affecting freshwater availability for drinking, agriculture, and industrial use. This can lead to conflicts over water resources and increase the risks of waterborne diseases. Amplification of social inequities. Climate change exacerbates existing social inequalities and disproportionately affects vulnerable populations. People living in poverty, marginalized communities, and developing countries often have limited resources and infrastructure to adapt to climate change impacts. This can lead to increased disparities in health, access to resources, and socio-economic opportunities. Threats to biodiversity hotspots. Climate change poses a significant threat to biodiversity hotspots, regions with high concentrations of unique and endangered species. These areas, such as rainforests, coral reefs, and Arctic ecosystems, are particularly sensitive to climate change-induced disruptions. The loss of biodiversity in these hotspots can have cascading effects on ecosystem functioning and resilience. Feedback effects on climate system. Climate change can trigger feedback loops that further contribute to global warming. For example, as permafrost, frozen soil, thaws due to rising temperatures, It releases stored carbon dioxide and methane, which are potent greenhouse gases. This release further amplifies the greenhouse effect and contributes to more warming. Addressing climate change requires a combination of mitigation efforts, such as transitioning to renewable energy sources and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, as well as adaptation strategies to build resilience and protect vulnerable communities and ecosystems. International cooperation, policy interventions, and individual actions are crucial in mitigating the impacts of climate change and fostering a sustainable future.